What's up, guys? Welcome to another Maker Monday. Sorry that it's been so long since we had another one. I think I missed two in a row. I have been extremely busy. I've been working on a whole bunch of stuff. In fact, you'll kind of see my box of goodies on things I've been working on. Been doing a whole bunch of stuff, especially just this time of year. Well, really any time of year. I say that all the time. Whether it's the winter or the summer, I got gobs of stuff to do. It doesn't matter. Summertime comes with mowing the yard, lawn work, all that stuff. You know, you guys know the drill. Anyway, I figured today we will take a peek at some more equipment that you could have for your lab or your electronics workbench, I guess you could say. I showed you guys last time kind of this area of the workbench where I showed you some of the power supplies and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and show you on down. I'm going to show you the kind of my soldering bench and just some good all-around good tools to have for doing a good quality solder job, and how to, you know, different tools you can have that makes repair life a whole lot easier. In fact, I had a friend the other day that just brought over a power supply from his church, had a bunch of bad capacitors in it, and I ended up changing them all out for him and swapping that out. And so it's nice when you have the tools to do that with. So that's what we're going to take a look at today on Maker Monday. So hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, well, sorry about the total shift in the way the picture and everything looks, but I had to, my other camera literally died. Yes, I know, I forgot to change the batteries in it, or at least charge the batteries. Not change, but charge. So we're using my GoPro now. Good news is it has a really wide angle lens, so I'm able to get really close. But other than that, yeah, so apologize for that. Hopefully it won't sacrifice too much. I'm also using the audio in this because I do not have the right USB converter for my Yeti. Yeah, you know, when it rains, it pours. But I am bound and determined that I'm going to get this video out for you guys. So here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what I've got here. My setup here is quite simple. This is a pan vise. If you ever get a chance to get one of these, it is great. They come in a variety of different kinds. This one's just a small one. I think it's the mini. It holds your circuit boards for you, and it's kind of cool because you can buy a tray. This is separate, this bottom piece, but you can buy a tray where you can hold different miscellaneous components and things. So very nice to have, very useful. Whenever you're soldering, it puts off toxic fumes and things like that, especially the flux, the different fluxes that you can use. So I highly recommend buying a smoke absorber or whatever. This one is, I don't know, it's just another little OUE? I don't know. Either way. But it is basically a fume extractor, is basically what it is. So this is the one that I bought, found on Amazon, fairly cheap. But they do have filters in them, and it pulls those fumes away from you. And definitely if you're going to be doing it indoors like I do, I've got windows all behind me, all behind the camera here. So definitely take and open up a window or something. Don't let those fumes just kind of go everywhere in your house. Definitely open up a window or whatnot, or have proper ventilation. That's probably a better way of saying it. I like to have a set of Chem wipes. These are fantastic. They're super absorbent little wipes, and you can get them you can get them all over the place. They're made by Kimberly-Clark, same people that make paper towels and stuff like that. They make these, and these are they're just a nice deal to have. Soak up some flux or any spillage of any kind, they'll soak up. So those are nice, just good to have on hand. I like putting water in these little squirt bottles, especially for the sponges for your soldering irons. I don't want to have to always rush to the bathroom to fill a sponge up, so you can always just take some water and you just squeeze this bottle, put it in a little squeeze bottle, and just fill it up, and there you go. So it's just nice to have, especially if you don't have a sink or something around. You can have some of this with you. Some of the other bottles that I have, I like keeping little squirt bottles. Like this is a little eyedropper bottle that I got. I like keeping these for putting different liquids and things in. Like I've got some liquid flux here, all-purpose soldering flux by Keister here. It's nice to just pour in there, and then you just have like a little squirt bottle, and you can just squirt the flux out. So little squirt bottles are nice to have. This is another one that's kind of nice to have. It kind of looks like something you'd see in a medical office, but especially like to use those chem wipes with. You sit and get some, I don't have it, it's low on alcohol right now, but I keep isopropyl alcohol in here because it'll take off any kind of gunk or residue or buildup or whatever can come off with isopropyl alcohol. So that's another good thing to have, is have a bottle of that laying around. For a soldering iron, currently, right now, I just have a Weller WES51, I believe is what it is on there. It's just the analog dial-o-matic, set your temperature with a dial type guy. It's nice, heats up real well. Has just like a normal wand on it. I have a multitude of different tips. I suggest getting a really thin tip for very intricate work, and I also suggest getting some of the bigger tips for doing, I don't know, sometimes you get those capacitors that are huge. Those will help you get the heat in where you need it. This is another, they call them screwdrivers because they're kind of like a flat blade screwdriver. And so that's basically the tips I have on it. Currently, it's just a miniature version of this bigger one. Okay. So anyway, definitely get an array of tips. I also would say you can have tip tinner. I've got some tip tinner on here. It's okay. You can tin it with just solder. Anyway, I do highly recommend having one of these little copper solder scraper deals. They have like this copper mesh in there, and it works great for cleaning the end, especially after you tin it. You set the end in there and tin it. And also, if you notice that it'll get dull on you, like the end won't be shiny as you're soldering. And I don't know, those of you that maybe are beginners in soldering stuff, but a lot of times what happens is the solder actually oxidizes, and that oxidation will keep the heat from getting into your circuit. So this is a great way to just scrape that oxidation off of the tip of your soldering iron. You can roll it in the water, but the water will make it oxidize really fast. Water's nice. The pad, the sponge is really nice because it'll cause the solder to cool quickly, which will cause it to ball up and come off the tip of your soldering iron. If you've got way too much or something, that's good. But it also oxidizes the tip, so it's nice to be able to scrape it on something that's not going to damage the tip, because this is just copper. They're kind of like, well, I don't know, it might be a steel too, but I believe it's just copper. Copper filings is basically what it is. And to scrape it on that, it won't damage the tip of it. It's not like taking it to a piece of sandpaper. Don't ever do that, by the way. It totally ruins the thermal properties of the tip. But you scrape it on this, and this kind of fluff stuff is softer than the tip of this, so it's not going to be real abrasive and scratch the tip of your soldering iron. So I suggest one of those as well. Also, an eye loop is what we call these, but these little, I can't remember what this one is. Yeah, this one's an 18X, basically inspection deal. You set it on your eye and you can see very tiny stuff of that. I suggest getting one of these because a lot of times you need to inspect your circuit boards and whatnot. These are great to inspect with. What else? Okay, onwards around the bench here. This is a hot air rework station. You can find these for very affordable on the internet. I can't remember where I actually purchased this one from. It was a across the pond guy, but works great, heats up, comes with a plethora of different tips. I've got a fairly good sized tip on it, but the tips come off and it's basically just a hot air gun is basically what it is. But it works miraculously on surface mount components. Also, it works miraculously if you have a very large through-hole pin or something that is very difficult to desolder or something. You just cannot get the heat through it. Take this and warm the board up with this. In fact, I've even taken this and snapped it into my pan vise and actually held it on apart before. Okay, so very useful tool. It's actually like a third set of hands, almost sometimes like a third soldering iron. So these definitely, those are magical. They work great. You turn them on. You can set the heater, what temperature you want. You can also set how hard it blows, because especially if you're dealing with surface mount, you do stuff that's little tiny stuff, and it will you can just blow the parts right off the board. So you have to be careful with how hard the air is, how hard it's blowing. It also has an auto manual feature. The auto feature is when you first turn it on, if you leave it in auto, it will not actually start working while it's in the cradle. You have to take it out, and then it begins going. And so that's actually kind of a cool feature. Anyway, it's self-explanatory. It's just a big hot air gun that you can adjust the temperature on. I recommend one of these. These are great. For desoldering, these are great, but also for desoldering through-hole components. You can buy the fancy, that's the next thing I want to get, is a fancy desolder gun where it's actually like a soldering iron with a vacuum cleaner on it, and it just sucks the solder right out. Those are fairly expensive. If you want an inexpensive, super easy to use tool to remove solder fairly quickly, the best thing you can get is a solder pump, but you can't, not just any old solder pump, okay? Because like Radio Shack used to have these little small ones, and they were just awful. The best one I have ever seen is these. These are a blue, I don't even know who makes these. I just know because these are the only ones like these. If you ever see that, if you go looking at solder pumps, this one's the one you want. You can take it apart and clean it, but it's got a huge airway in here to vacuum out stuff with. You actually have to caulk it with that, and then you press the button to actually get it. And I mean, this thing, it's got some vacuum to it. I mean, I can even do it on my finger, and I can actually feel it pull on my finger. Of course, I'm throwing solder everywhere. I need to clean this thing out. But it is fantastic. These things, how you do it is you take the soldering iron, you heat up whatever component you're doing with your soldering iron, you set this, and I mean set it right on top of it. The tip is a fairly high temperature plastic. Now, I mean, if you set it on there indefinitely, it's going to melt it. But you just set this right on top of your iron, right on top of what you're desoldering, and press the button, and it'll pull the solder right off the board. A lot of times on through-hole parts, it'll pull the solder right through the hole and everything. I mean, this is the next best thing to having one of those fancy solder pump guys that are like, I think they're like $200 or $300. This is like $10. So pick up 2 or 3 of these. I mean, these are fantastic. I definitely suggest some solder wick. This is desoldering braid, soldering wick, soldering braid. I have a whole bunch of it. I get different sizes of it. It works marvelous for surface mount components. You lay it on top of whatever you're wanting to desolder, set your soldering iron on it. Now, rule of thumb, don't have your fingers right next to the soldering iron. It is copper. Copper conducts. It will conduct the heat right into your fingers, and you will burn yourself. So you hold it a ways out. Like, I'd hold it clear back here and be, trying to desolder something. This will actually wick up solder, just like a wick in a candle or a wick in a lantern. Will suck up the fluid and burn it. Same thing with this. The minute the solder, this gets to temperature and the solder gets to temperature, the solder will literally wick up into it. You'll see it literally just suck the solder right up into this braid. Braid is very, very useful for surface mount components, as well as clearing through holes. If you have a through hole that's just soldered over, you can use this, set it on there, hit it for a couple of minutes with the soldering iron. It'll suck that solder right up. Most of the time, it'll suck it clear out of the hole too. So this works really well. So solder braid is another must. Getting close on time here, so I'll go through these others quickly. I 3D printed this. I have a video, but I 3D printed a solder holder. But I definitely recommend for any leaded solders is 6337. So the 63%, was it 63% tin and 33% lead or whatever that 63 or 90. I don't remember. 6337, I think is what it is. I'm wasting time. Yeah, 6337. That's what it is. So 63% tin, 37% lead. That is a great solder. I recommend different sizes. Like this one, I think is a .015, I think. And just get some different sizes. Like I've got some old Radio Shack ones that are 6337 as well. The RoHS stuff or RoHS compliant stuff that has no lead in it, it takes a massive amount of heat to get it to melt, and don't ever mix the two solders together. If you mix the two solders together, I don't know what it is, but the alloy that it creates needs like literally a blowtorch to get it to melt. So don't mix your solders, okay? Know what boards you're soldering on. If it's a board that's RoHS compliant, use RoHS compliant solder. Do not try to mix a tin leaded process with the RoHS compliant. Otherwise, you're going to have a nightmare on your hands. Trust me, I've done it. Anyway, another couple of things that are really good, really fast, is get yourself a good can of parts cleaner. This is, or defluxer of some sort. This is a heavy-duty parts cleaner made by Max Pro. Is this one? I get this from my local electronics shop that's in my own town. If you don't have one, I think WD-40 makes a flux cleaner. This removes dirt, oil, grease, flux, and more. It removes all kinds of stuff, and it's safe for electronics. Be careful with these though. because on certain ones, I know there's one made by Tech Spray that's called Blue Shower, that will mess with LEDs. And not meaning it renders them useless, it's just that it will cloud them. If it's a clear LED, it will cloud the LED. It actually does something to the plastic. It makes the plastic go cloudy. So you definitely want to use something that is a flux remover. And if you get these things that are all in one, heavy duty, cleans oil, grease, flux, and more, and all that stuff, take an LED that you don't care about and spray it with it and see if it doesn't tear up the LED, because I know the LEDs can be sensitive, as well as other plastics can be sensitive with this stuff. Last but not least, guys, is HemaSeal. This stuff is magical. It comes in literally hundreds of different flavors. I mean, hundreds of different types. This is the 1B73. What this is an acrylic, I believe it's acrylic. I can't remember what 1B73 is. I'd almost have to look at it. I'm pretty sure it's acrylic. This is an acrylic conformal coat in a spray can. So what you can do, if I can get it off, is, see, it looks like a spray paint can. What it is when if you have a circuit board that's going to be in a wet location or a very humid environment, you spray it with this. And this stuff, what's great about it is, since it's acrylic, it is not silicone based. This one, I believe, is acrylic. This 1B73, it will not cause capacitance issues. I've sprayed stuff with a so-called conformal coat by Tech Spray that was a silicone-based one, and it totally ruined a circuit one time, because it basically created, because of silicone, it created little capacitors basically everywhere and just totally ruined it. So HemaSeal did not, though. There's a friend of mine that I know that did circuit boards and whatnot that launch up into space, and he said they sprayed every single one with this HemaSeal 1B73. So definitely pick you up a can of this if you have any kind of wet locations or anything like that. Like, in fact, I even sprayed one of my boards. I had a circuit board that was causing problems in oh, I know we're getting way off on time, but I had a circuit board in a oh, doggone, deal that measures weight. I can't think right now. Scale. There was a scale that I had that once it got wet, the board just went. So when I bought the new scale, I took it apart and I HemaSealed it. So it definitely will not have problems with water from here on out. Okay, guys. Well, thanks a lot for staying with me so long. We went a little over. We went 16 minutes. But anyway, hopefully it was good information for you guys. This is basically my quick little lab setup, as well as tools. I've got a bunch of hand tools and things as well, but that was a quick rundown. If you want to see it in more detail or something, just let me know. Maybe I'll make a full-blown video out of it and do a lot more detail on all the different pieces and parts and show you how it works. But hopefully you guys found this interesting. If you're watching this early in the morning, hopefully it started your day off right, and if you're watching it of an evening, hopefully it's a nice chill thing to watch as you're sitting down for the evening. Take care, guys. Thank you very much for all the likes and subscribes and shares, and continue to do that because it really helps the channel out. Check out the t-shirts. I got t-shirts. In fact, I've got coffee mugs up now, so check those out on Zazzle.com/misperry. Check me out on Twitter, Instructables, and all that jazz. And guys, with that ought to do it. We'll see you next week.